Good. We just had our holiday party via Zoom. So I'm switching gears from wearing antlers and I lit up necklace to trying to be, I didn't have any wine though, because I knew I couldn't do that and be awake for this meeting.
So if I request the antlers, is that a possibility?
They're already in another room. I threw them back in the party box.
Right. I was going to say, I want to see the antlers.
Right?
The problem is you couldn't really see them on the camera. I mean,
Yeah.
trying to move things so you could see my background, but all the issues with Zoom.
That's
Barbara,
Hello.
welcome. Hi, Angela. Nice to see you.
How are you doing?
And I see we have a couple of guests. Mr. O'Neill is here, as is Councilman Dora. Hi, Denny. Nice to see you. I'm going to give everybody a few more minutes to come on before we, and Zach, you tell me when you are ready for us to start streaming. Please.
Yesterday, we were able to stream 2 different meetings on Facebook at the same time, but today we're not able to, so I'm not sure what's going on. So I just went live on YouTube and then reposted it on the city's Facebook page. So we're good with the Open Meetings Act, and you are good to go whenever you're ready.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm going to give it a couple. Here comes Brian. Maybe we'll just wait till 5:33 and then we can call it to order. Let me just text a couple more people and see if they're remembering to come. Zach, would you kindly put the agenda up on the screen, please? Okay, with what appears to be a quorum present, I'm going to call this meeting to order. The Thursday, December 17th, 2020 virtual meeting of the City of Grand Haven Human Relations Commission is called to order at 5:33. And if Rhonda Klein, our liaison for the city, would kindly take attendance when she calls your name, please unmute, say here, and say the city and state where you are physically located at the moment. Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Farmer,
I'm here. Grand Haven, Michigan.
Bautzenheiser,
Here in Unica, Michigan.
Van Horsen,
Here, City of Grand Haven, Michigan.
Lyons,
Here, Grand Haven, Michigan.
Masco,
Here, Grand Haven, Michigan.
McGee,
Here, Grand Haven, Michigan.
Reddick,
Here, Walker, Michigan.
Swartout,
Zip code 49417.
Tran,
Here, Grand Haven, Michigan.
and Worksma.
Here, Grand Haven, Michigan. Thank you, everyone. And thanks everybody for being here for this, our last meeting of a singular year, 2020. I appreciate that. Does anybody have any additions or deletions to the agenda? Zach, if we could look at the bottom of the agenda where all the items are, starting with old business and new business. At Barbara's request, we have one more item to add, item E to old business, and that is we will discuss the town halls as a regular old business item. Is that correct, Barbara?
Actually, it might be most appropriate to have the anti-racism task force as the standing item, and that
All
would
right.
be reporting on the town hall.
Okay, anti-racism task force becomes item E for the old business agenda and reported on by Lee Van Horsen. Anybody else have any additions to the agenda or request any deletions? Then if there are no more changes to the agenda, may I have a motion to approve the agenda? Unmute and say your name and say support, or say I move and support.
Van Horsen, move.
Farmer support.
Thank you, Barbara and Shannon. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes of the meeting of November 19th? Barbara, I did make that one change that you gave me, putting in Carrie Corpy's last name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. If there are no other changes, may I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November?
Support out, motion to approve.
Thank you. And support?
Van Horsen, support.
Thank you. I would like to welcome the guests who are here tonight. I believe we have a couple. Let me see if I can see everybody. Mr. O'Neill, do you want to unmute and say hi? James O'Neill.
Hello, everyone. I appreciate you meeting, and I appreciate everything you guys do for the city and this area.
Thank you. And I see we have Councilman Cummins.
Yes. Hey, everyone. Hope you're doing well, and thank you for your work. I'm in the middle of heading out of work and heading home. So if I don't hear you call me for a question or something like that, please forgive me.
Okay, well, stay in safe mode, okay? And did I see Councilman Dora? Oh, yeah, I see Councilman Dora.
Hello, everybody. Kind of echo Ryan's thoughts. Thanks for everything you guys do. We really appreciate it a lot, and happy holidays.
To you as well. And Zach Van Ostal is here running our meeting. He is the Human Relations Director for the City of Grand Haven, and he also has an agenda item under new business. So welcome again, Zach. We always love it when you're here.
Great, thank you so much.
Did I miss any guests? Okay. This will be the first of our 2 general calls to the audience. Zach, do we have anything from the audience?
Check in here real fast. There are no comments on Facebook or on YouTube.
All right, we will ask the audience again at the end of new business. And liaison reports, I see that our Brian Wheeler is here from Grand Haven Area Public Schools, being our liaison from the education world. How are things there, Brian?
Everything's going fine. You know, it's of course we're fully remote right now, so except for our special ed students or whatever, but life is moving along.
So we're still standing or sitting, as it were, right?
Yes.
Well, we appreciate all your work. I just Can't believe what our teachers, parents, and students have to go through all of this. And I always wonder what it would be like if I had my 3 wild boys at home right now, trying to work from home and teach them too. I blessed the teachers who took them every day. In fact, I was always surprised when they came home at night. I thought if I paid my taxes, you'd keep my kids, but you didn't. You sent them home every day. All right, no more sidebars. I'm sorry. Did I miss any liaisons? I don't see everybody on, and I'm terribly ADD, so I did not miss any liaisons. All right. Old business, Visionary Award update. Masco, Lautzenheiser, and actually I should have had Reddick on there too. It just doesn't all fit on one line. So would somebody from that group like to tell us where we stand with the Visionary Award?
There's no current update on the Visionary Award.
Okay. Do you have any, does anybody have any thoughts about the Visionary Award? Are we still at 2 nominations, Raina?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Does anyone have anything? I've just been thinking a lot about it and thinking that I would like it to be a significant honor for whomever receives it. So any thoughts about what we can do to reinforce that and maybe set a new deadline in 2021 when we can award it in person?
I really thought about like what, you know, what has kept people from like nominating people, especially like during the pandemic. I think that a lot of people have been doing a lot of great work. So I don't know if people are just overwhelmed with just everything that's going on, and this is just like one more thing. Or if you guys are just okay with us just, you know, choosing from the 2 nominations that we have. I don't know. If we want to wait, like you said, Luann, I think that like this is a really significant award, and so I would really like to have, you know, different nominations.
Go ahead, Angela.
Angela. I was going to ask a question if that's okay. Does Angela have something?
Yes.
Sorry, my little brother. I just wanted to say that like I know that West Michigan like recently began a chapter of like cohort of March for Our Lives, as well as students demand action. So that might be a group to recommend to like nominate either themselves or have someone nominate them. So
I didn't quite hear you, Angela. What was the chapter called?
It's like a joint chapter of March for Our Lives and Students Demand Action, and I think it's Jackson Schultz or Gabby Scott. They're the co-chairs of that. So,
Angela, do you have their information where you can send out the link to them?
yeah, like I can definitely talk to them about that and let them know that this is going on.
That would be wonderful. Thank you. And anybody else who has any, has watched any of the work being done this year, who wants to nominate somebody from our community who's improved our community in the areas that we are charged with improving, we would greatly appreciate that.
Can I ask a question, Luann?
Oh, absolutely, Shaila. I'm sorry for not recognizing you before.
No, it's okay. So how long has is this the first time that this award is being given?
Yes.
Okay. And when was it launched?
Was it March? April? March, April? Mm-hmm.
Like during the pandemic, the height of the first.
Yeah.
I just wonder if at this point it makes the most sense to pick somebody, have like the first year person chosen so that it becomes something that builds on it. It seems like perhaps it could build on that once, you know, someone has been recognized and we have the announcement of that and what they've done. Maybe it would encourage other people to see like this is something that we strive for, that we want to nominate other people for. But I don't know. I know that you guys since there's only 2 people, maybe you want to have more. I just didn't know if perhaps it would just be a good spot to just pick somebody and start again for next year.
And would your thought be that it could be a virtual award, a virtual awarding of it? as opposed to a physical one?
I mean, we could always like drop it on someone's front porch and have them take a picture with it and have it be semi-virtual, like distanced.
Yeah.
But just something, I feel like we're not probably going to be in a place in the next couple of months or more where there would be the ability to have an in-person type of ceremony anyways.
Well, those are all thoughts for the committee. And if you guys could meet, do you think you could have a reworked decision for us next month? Are there any other suggestions for how to move this forward, or do you just want to table it?
I actually just had an idea as we were speaking, and I thought sometimes videos work. So maybe if we can have like someone from the committee, do a small 60-second video and just talking about, do you know anyone, that fits this criteria we're looking, and then maybe just try that one more time instead of, people having to read about it and all of that. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like videos do a really great work, more in advertising than just a regular post. I don't know what you guys think.
I think that's a great suggestion.
I do too.
And going live does have a higher viewership usually on Facebook. So if someone wants to go live on the Facebook page and live on the Instagram page, I think that could be beneficial as well.
Would you be able to guide the committee through that as
Oh yeah,
Go
that
live
is
expert?
extraordinarily easy, and I'm sure that they all already know how to do it, but I'm happy to help.
All
Yeah,
right.
and I think if we just try that one more time, and then if we don't get any nominations from that, like maybe just open it for like another, couple weeks. And then if we really don't get any nominations from them, then go ahead and just make it, us choosing from what we have right now.
What if we did it on a really, I'm sorry, Alexa, I just want to get this thought out. What if we did it on a day like the Martin Luther King holiday or some other watershed date?
Like the Martin Luther King birthday, or
the third Monday in January.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Okay.
After all, his face is on the award itself.
All right.
Perfect.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Could you bring the award to our next meeting to show what you've had created for us?
Yep.
That would be beautiful. I'd like for everybody to see that. I haven't seen it, so it would be great.
Okay.
But is our next meeting going to be after?
Martin Luther King Day, yes. So we'll actually see it on Martin Luther King Day, won't we?
Yeah.
We'll see it when you put it.
I can send a picture of it to you guys too.
Okay.
Okay.
I was just going to say that I like the idea too. I think using the video to promote it, but then that also video could be a tool for the recognition. And so, if somebody, whether it's, handing them on the porch or whatever, if that's recorded and then that gets posted, that could also draw attention to it for the future.
Well, and depending on who the nominee, the final recipient is, we could put together a quick set of clips, a slideshow and or video combined of a couple minutes to honor that person's accomplishments. What do you think?
I love that.
Okay.
I want to go after Alexa, but Alexa, I'll go after you.
Okay, I was just curious if anyone thought it was worth it to revisit what the committee discussed in the first place. We had the intent when we were creating the criteria to launch some little section in a bunch of different local newsletters. I don't really know if that ever came to fruition, but it might be worth it to see if we could get in some end of the year newsletters or Happy New Year, this is what we're up to. I'd like to try that if you think it's worth it.
So are you talking about different organizations like LIDA, those kinds of people who are working in this space?
Yeah, we discussed that last November, but I'm not sure if anything actually happened out of that conversation.
Well, if you can do that, I think that would help.
Yeah,
do you want to take the lead on that?
Yeah, I got that.
Awesome.
Thank you. That's great. Well, this is great. Anybody else? Go ahead, Child.
For the video that you were talking about, Luann, of like the filming the person, maybe getting the award and having a little lead up of why they were nominated, having the person who actually nominated, perhaps videotaping them explaining why they nominated them, or having them send in a video of themselves, like explaining why they nominated the person.
That would be great. And I can think of one nomination that I'm aware of, that there would be a lot of things from that person's life that could be pulled together.
I like the video portion. And even though I needed a lot of help making the other one, I can help organize the pieces if we have a video editor.
Okay. All right.
If we have to put together a video, and we can't do anything in person, depending on who the recipient is and what they do every day, we may be able to include some of the work that they're active in every day as part of the video clip, them receiving it, but also maybe just a short clip of them, you know, who do they interact with every day, or, you know, what do they do, that sort of thing. Might be just a thought on maybe something to include.
Oh, I'm going all kinds of places with this, Kyle. So now when we put the award in the trophy case in the city hall, we can also have a QR code that people can take a picture with their phone, go right to that award video, and they can see why it's there. Look at
Look at you go. Now we just need to figure out how you do that. I'm sure someone in here is smart enough to know how to do that in here.
Oh, you just, I do know through Revel, who United Way uses, how to get the QR code. So that should be able, we should be able to do it all if we all get excited about it and do those things. Because I think it's, you just don't want it gathering dust. You want it to be living. Great. All right. Good start, guys. If there's nothing else, do we have anything from the Policy and Procedure Revision Committee, you wild party animals working on policy and procedure revisions?
Ladies first, go ahead, Angela.
All right, thank you, Denny. So generous.
I try to be.
I haven't really been able to like get together to meet yet, but I think like I just kind of been like looking over the old policies that Luann, you gave me when I first started on the commission, and I'm just like having a little difficulty finding direction, just especially because like we haven't been able to figure out what we want to be as a commission moving forward. And so that's kind of one of my personal struggles just from this task so far.
I would only add to that, Angela, that understanding that we're in the midst of and now a delayed process as far as strategic planning for the HRC, I'm kind of struggling with the fact of what do we do first? Should we do some strategic planning as an organization to set certain goals, objectives, whatever, vision, and that obviously then leads into policies and procedures. So what comes first is my question to the rest of you. I may have a personal point of view, but I throw that question out because now I see that, you know, Al Vanderberg has suggested, and I guess we've decided to delay that until after the first of the year for good reason. Should that not be the first course of action versus trying to set some policies and procedures devoid of any new strategic plan?
I guess if my only response to that is that we do have one thing that we are charged with doing through that 2000 document, and that is the policy and procedure that we follow to investigate a complaint. And that has come under question in the 2 or 3 complaints that this group working together has been presented with. So if anything, since we are going through one right now, if the 2 of you could look at that and see what we can do there. I mean, there are some things that I've been challenged with, just where it says we're going to open a file and little things like that. And well, where is that? You know, our liaison changes all the time. What does the city do for us to make our work last and be something more than just something that's ephemeral? I don't know if I'm just splitting hairs here, but how do we keep it confidential and that sort of thing? I had questions this week with Rhonda, like, should we be attaching Mr. O'Neill's complaint to the minutes and making them public records? So there's a lot of stuff there that I think with a little more familiarity with the Open Meetings Act, we could maybe address.
Well, and like I said, it's public, the complaint is public because it was discussed at the public meeting last month. It was read. So now the complaint is public and it needs to be put in the minutes because it was part of the meeting.
And is that okay? I mean, are we supposed to read complaints during, certainly wouldn't want to do it if it were a sensitive one involving,
but I mean, all of the stuff involving complaints with the history of the HRC, I have, you know, and it will be passed on to the next liaison, whether it's electronic or, you know, in the files, but I have everything. So there is no, I mean, not in my mind, there's no concern about any of that not being where it's supposed to be.
okay.
I mean, we've only had 2 in 5 years, so.
Plus, in this specific one, the complaint was addressed at the city council meeting, which is public as well, right?
I don't think our complaint has been addressed yet at a city council meeting.
No.
Oh, I apologize. I thought we were talking about the last complaint that
We are, but it hasn't come up at a city council meeting yet.
The complaint was about an activity at a city council meeting, Raina, but it wasn't addressed at a city council meeting.
Oh, got it.
Since that
Oh,
time.
okay, I had it completely wrong. I thought it had.
And when those complaints, when those policies and procedures were written, did they anticipate that we would all be sharing things like this via email? I mean, should I be sharing things via email if they're sensitive? Those are the kinds of things, Jenny, that as I've looked at it, I've wondered about. And Zach, maybe you can help us with that from a, you know, how a policy and procedure perspective. Maybe we really need somebody from the city who is governing these kinds of activities to guide us on that. Mike, you're smiling. Do you have any input?
Well, let me just add, I think, Luann, you touched on some legal issues here too. So whether it be the city attorney or whoever, I think we need some other professional support here to guide us through this. I mean, you're bringing in some issues in my mind that are legalese or fall into a legal arena, which we have no knowledge of or background on. So I see, Mike, you're nodding your head in affirmation. I've never seen you do that before. I appreciate that. So I've got one vote. So the mayor is not doing anything there. So Mayor Manetza, your story is normal. But that's my point to be made.
Well, Zach, I think what we might be able to do then is see if we need to have a meeting with certain members of the city staff just to see where we are with all of this. And if we do need some clearer direction on our legal responsibilities.
I think that would be a good course of action to take. So the committee will undertake that particular directive from the chairperson forthwith.
The chairperson thanks the committee.
You're welcome.
All right, anybody? Okay, Mr. Manetza, Mayor Manetza, would you like?
Just so I'm, make sure I'm in understanding where the conversation is. We're talking about policies and procedures for the committee. And specifically, you're talking about the investigation of complaints of discrimination.
Yes.
Okay, and I think that an older one you had involved somebody in an apartment who was harassing someone else in an apartment area, and you had to have the police involved. There was a police report. There was, I'm not sure how much of that you would consider as confidential or how much of that you consider as public information. And so I guess, you know, I would have to appeal to Zach or to someone with a lot more idea of how this stuff should work in a public realm. I mean, you're charged with receive, investigate, and evaluate complaints of discrimination against a person, group of persons, organization, or corporation, whether placed by a persons, associations, or corporations. I think you have to stay fairly close to the language in the ordinance that empowers your actions. And this language, I think this dates all the way back to when Denny was on council. So it's pretty darn old. But I mean, I think that you know, whatever you do with complaints, you have to stay kind of close to this language in the ordinance. If that calls for some level of confidentiality, somebody needs to advise us where you go with that or how you handle it in meetings such as this. I don't know if that helps you or not. That's just my kind of initial reaction here.
Well, and I don't think anybody ever anticipated in those that people would be emailing, you know, does the whole group get an email with it? And what is our instruction to all of our commissioners when they do receive it in an email? And what is our instruction I mean, you've had to change things about meetings since we've been meeting virtually, and now we have more people attending than ever attended before. We could discuss something in commission meetings in the past without anybody overhearing us. I mean, everything went into our minutes, but there wasn't that sense that other people were listening. So
well, they've always been public meetings,
right?
So anybody could attend. The difference now is that more people find it easy to attend, which is actually a very nice thing. We appreciate.
I agree.
That. We appreciate that at the council level as well. I think we have better information and better attendance, and so I mean, I think it's all positive. But it also, even though there were public meetings in the past, if you were dealing with complaints, which again, I'm not the expert on this, if you were dealing with police reports or incidents of discrimination, which had some sensitivity that might need some confidentiality. You never really had that talking in an open meeting, except for the fact that people didn't show up. And now, of course, people show up because it's easy to show up. So I can't answer that question. I think that I see Zach sitting there quietly. Maybe he has a better idea. Otherwise, we need to talk to somebody who's a lot smarter than me about it.
I don't know about smarter, but a lot of the laws that apply to HR, they're employee specific. So it's protection of employee personnel files. So when I do a harassment investigation, there's special protections on that, but I don't know if it would apply to commission's work. So I don't exactly have advice on this, but I know we might be able to take it to the city attorney for review, but we'd probably want to take a stab at it first and then present what you guys are thinking. And then we can send it to the attorney at that point and they can do a thorough review.
Personally, I don't see the connection between an HR issue and a public complaint issue to HRC, but I suppose there may be some Washington University law graduates that might have a different point of view.
Yeah, I think that's what Zach is saying, is that there's not enough of a connection for him to answer for us.
But once we do decide what things are, I would like Zach's advice on how to present that to new commissioners and train and prepare commissioners, because I think that all of us came here with good hopes of being effective and useful, and there's not a lot of training or understanding of the world that we enter. And that has been brought up from the time I started, when things started hitting. It seems like something has happened every few months that has made me wonder, how do I do this? And how do I lead a commission that's confronted with the kinds of things we've been confronted with? So that's where I'm struggling right now.
Well, with all due respect to the HR director here, you know, there may be some other communities that have more experience in the Human Relations Commission arena that we might reach out to find out what they've done. I mean, this isn't maybe a new experience, although it may be for us. It doesn't mean it isn't for places like Ann Arbor or Jackson or Grand Rapids or any place else. So it might be well for some people to reach out and say, what type of policy procedures do you have and how you deal with complaints? Instead of reinventing any wheel, there may be some experience out there, new as we might be, that others have a lot more experience than we do.
Okay. That's an excellent suggestion too. I like that.
Denny, as you're in your subcommittee work, once you have a meeting scheduled with, whoever you are going to review this with, I'd like to be a part of that meeting just so I can hear what they say and take notes. And maybe then, since I'm the liaison, I can share that with Zach and get his thoughts.
Thanks.
What meeting are you talking about again?
Aren't you going to set up a meeting to talk about the complaint procedure, that sort of thing? Didn't you say you were going to do that?
Yes.
Forthwith?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, my fourth wish is in the minutes, yes.
All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate all of your work on that. If we have nothing else, then Shannon, do you have anything on the governor's proclamation of racism as a public health crisis?
I do not have anything just yet, but I would like to get with you. Maybe I'll email you after this is over and work on some things. So then next month I should have an update.
That is such a drag.
Okay, okay. Pat was bringing us his background information, his background sounds. Okay, very good. And
Can I put in on this? I got a question.
okay.
I've been doing some research on that, and I'm not sure racism is a public health issue. And if I can work with Shannon on it a little bit more, I feel that this is a hoax in some kind of way. In my opinion, I'm doing a lot of serious reading on it. What cities like states like Wisconsin, Michigan, and I think it's another state, Ohio, and other cities are putting this in, but it doesn't make any sense, and it's hokey. I'm gonna put it as not fake, but it's hokey dokey. And I don't like it, the way it's shaped and structured. It, in a lot of ways, to me, it backs, it's a pacifier. So
I'm sorry, what was the last thing you said, Wes?
It's like a pacifier. It doesn't mean anything. It has no meat, potatoes, gravy, or nothing. The way it's constructed, as I've been looking at 4 different articles on this issue, that it's a public health issue, it doesn't make any sense. It has no grounding, no foundation. It's just out of coming off somebody's head, talking about health issues, but it doesn't talk about the real issue of what is, where blame comes from, who is it applied to, and how it manifests itself. It's hokey dokey. It's just, I don't like it. I think it's something needs to be to look into more deeply than what taking the governor's initiative is. The way Michigan has structured it, the way other states have looked at it, what other cities have looked at it. Pacifier. It doesn't mean it doesn't hold any water whatsoever.
Thank you, Wes. Would you be willing to share a summary of that with Shannon? Wes, did you hear me?
I'm sorry. Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, so you would be willing to share that with Shannon. Does that work for you, Shannon? And then you read.
Oh, absolutely. Because I've done a little bit of research too, but probably not as much as Wes. And I just made a note to do a little bit more so that him and I can compare notes. I'm happy to have somebody join with me, because I think that, the more of us that talk about it, we can come up with something that makes sense for everybody. So I'm more than happy with that.
Great. All right. So we'll hear from you in January then. Okay, great. Thank you so much for that.
I think Bob wants to, got his hand up, the mayor.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it. Go ahead.
I guess my hand is quiet. Sorry about that.
That's
When
okay.
when this came out 2 or 3 months ago, or whenever, I think Barb brought it up. And I asked, has anybody contact, the city doesn't have a public health department per se. And I think I inquired, has anybody talked to Ottawa County Health Department or anyone other than whatever the governor has proclaimed in terms of public health crisis? And I just wondered if there had been any feedback from any actual public health department on this.
There is some movement going on in the county, at the county level, and Robin Afric is involved in some of that evaluation and trying to, my understanding is, yeah, trying to figure out what the actions might be that would come out of such a declaration. But I'm not part of those conversations, so I don't want to speak to it inaccurately. I do know that at the DHHS meeting that I was at earlier this week, that there was a report that those conversations are ongoing at the county level.
Thank you for that, Barbara. I just sent that to Shannon in a chat too, as somebody to talk to. Because my only thought is that we saw so much during the pandemic in our own communities of coronavirus disproportionately affecting our communities of color. And now there's some concern that communities of color will also not be as readily able to get the vaccine. I would hate to see that happen. And whereas the mayor's point is well taken that we don't have a city public health department, we're part of a county that has a public health department, and we have a hospital system, and we have people who need health. So just as it applies to us, how we could make sure that anything that is essential to the health of our population is also activated here. All right, then we can go on to our alleged discrimination complaint 2020-01. And did everybody have a chance to read what Rhonda and I came up with? As a result of all of you speaking and contributing and helping with the investigation, Rhonda and I thought the best thing to do would be to ask the city council to revisit its decision in this matter and to remind them that they have written and adopted a diversity, equity, and inclusion statement, and to filter their nominations through the tenets of that statement in the future. Would you, Zach, be able to put that request for review of city council action on the screen for everybody to see at this moment? Okay, happy to take your comments on whether you think this coming from us is adequate in response to the complaint we have received.
If I may, can you hear me?
Yes.
While I think the language, the request is well prepared and well written, I want to step back a minute and reflect on what I read in the minutes or some other documentation where if some individuals had to do over again, at the point of time when the mayor made the recommendation to appoint this individual to the Duncan Park Board, if they could do over again, they would have offered a motion to table, which would have been the appropriate thing to do. Unfortunately, they didn't do it for whatever reason. That would have given everybody an opportunity to at least review, discern, and discuss, what the relevant points were before any reconsideration might have been undertaken. But that wasn't done. And so the decision was made. My thought with respect to this is, has anyone reached out to the individual, I think Nancy by name, to ask if she would consider writing something in her own words that describe anything that's changed in her personal view relative to the words that she used 6 or 8 years ago, that would reflect and give us a better sense of where she is today, which might alleviate some people's concerns. And so we can move forward beyond this particular issue.
The answer to that question as it applies to the Human Relations Commission is no.
No, what?
Rhonda and I decided that it wasn't our job to litigate the appointment, but to litigate not to question the appointment. But what I thought was most interesting was our last meeting where several people said, this is really the council's job to take care of. And it's our job as their Human Relations Commission to advise them that we think they should revisit this appointment, and going forward, that they use things like you just said, the motion to table, and we can certainly put that in the language so that they use the tenets of the diversity, equity, and inclusion statement in making such. All we can really do, I think, in this case is be their conscience and remind them what they said they were about and what they believe, and ask them to apply it here and going forward. And that was why we came up with what we did. I didn't think it was our job to interview and get into the weeds of what happened 6 to 8 years ago.
And I'll say,
I'm not suggesting it is.
Go ahead, Rhonda.
And I just wanted to add to that, Luann, Luann and I had decided, she had reached out and there wasn't really any feedback after the meeting from anyone on the commission. And we decided because, when we do get a complaint, one of the responsibilities of the commission is to act quickly. We don't want the residents of the community to think that, yeah, I'm told there's an HRC and I heard they take complaints and I made a complaint, but it's been 3 months and I've not heard there's no result. So that was one of the reasons Luann and I decided to get together, why we decided to take the action. But the language that she put in there, and we made the decisions that we made based on the conversation at the meeting and the thoughts of everyone who spoke at the last meeting. So I just wanted to add that. Point that part out.
I just want to comment that I like the language, the choice of the word to revisit, because it's not being like prescriptive and saying you should change it, but you should at least take that time to evaluate it. And so something like that suggestion to ask for a letter of from this Nancy could very well be part of the process that the council might want to consider if they're willing to revisit the decision.
Mayor Manette.
Well, I don't know that the council.
I'm sorry,
revisit
Denny,
something.
the mayor had his hand up first. Go ahead, Mayor.
And I don't want to interrupt Denny, so if you have something to say, that's fine. I only comment. Go ahead, Denny. I'll speak after you.
I would defer to the mayor.
Oh, thanks a lot. The comment on revisiting this issue, I guess I would speak to the Duncan Park Commission ordinance that governs membership on that group, and that says that we can remove a sitting member of that group for misbehavior in office. If she's guilty of malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance as a board member, she could be removed. But other than that, she's been appointed, sworn in, she's on that board. So there's really nothing to revisit. We can't unring the bell. It's what's done is done there, and going back and saying we're going to unappoint you would be inconsistent with how that group is structured. So if you have advice going forward, that's fine. But as far as revisiting and trying to rescind that appointment, there's really not a mechanism for that I'm aware of.
Barbara, can I let Denny go next?
Me, Barbara.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay. I totally agree with the mayor, and that's my point. The decision has been made. the unfortunate situation was that it was not tabled when it should have been tabled. Okay, procedurally. That would allow the HRC, other individuals, including the 5 members of the city council, to make an informed decision, an educated, informed decision. That wasn't done. Okay, so maybe there's some lessons learned there. We'll know that moving forward, but you can't undo what's been done. My recommendation again is to reach out to the individual, ask if she's willing to write something in her own words that describes what's changed in her life and her point of view over 6 or 8 years when this supposedly was written, that would give anybody some sense that she is better suited, a better candidate, and maybe has learned her own lesson. And I think that would resolve the issue without making this something bigger than what it should be.
I don't think everyone on.
Rhonda, can you let Barbara go next?
All I was going to say was that was my point, that it was the word revisit and not rescind, that it's asking for an opportunity to revisit the process of making that decision, not to rescind the decision that was made.
Right. And you have to remember that this is a statement to the city council about their action. We're not addressing what what the person did. We're only addressing the complaint. The complaint that we have is against city council.
Well, then have the person who has a complaint against city council take it to city council. Don't take it to the HRC.
But you don't. That's why the HRC exists, to take complaint.
I know, but the complaint is against the city council. It's not against the HRC.
Yes, but when somebody comes.
Yes, but what?
You have to let me respond, Denny.
Go ahead.
When somebody comes to the HRC with a complaint, you know, just like the original complaint that we had, we don't say to that person, well, you have a complaint against your neighbor, so go talk to your neighbor, don't talk to the HRC. In this situation, the complaint was against the city council. So it was not against an individual woman. So we are addressing that. We're not addressing the behavior of the woman.
And what control do we have over the elected officials of the city council? None.
That's not our decision, though.
Then why are we involved in this? Because there was a complaint.
Just like we don't have control over, if an individual discriminates against another individual, we don't have control over that individual. We address the complaint. In this case, we had a complaint about an action of a city council. Everyone on this commission understands, we have all learned that the decision was made and nothing can be done about this person already being sworn in to the Duncan Park Board. Everyone understands that. That's why, as Luann said and why Barbara said, there's nowhere in any of that language that we made a recommendation to remove that person from the board. We are only addressing the city council in the fact that, like you're saying, Denny, perhaps when a controversial appointment comes up, they should table it and have more conversation about it before doing the swearing in. So we have to stay in our lane, as Luann has said repeatedly throughout this 2-month process. And that was, you know, some of the other members, the conversation at last month's meeting. And so we're not addressing the behavior of an individual 6 or 8 years ago. We're addressing the complaint that was given to us that was based on that they didn't like what the city council did. So, and we love our city council members, and 3 of you are here.
Go ahead.
Listen, I like my job. Can I just throw that out there? No.
Go ahead, Mayor.
Well said from a staff member.
Hey.
Thank you,
Rhonda, you
Rhonda.
do your job.
you do your job very well, and we appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
That's totally irrelevant, and hopefully people viewing this on Facebook or YouTube or whatever you're on are taking that as humor. So let me go back to, what's the charge of this committee in the ordinance that governs it? That is to receive, investigate, and evaluate complaints of discrimination against any person, group of persons, organization, or corporation, whether placed by private persons, associations, or corporations. The commission shall seek to correct practices of discrimination through negotiation and education. Problems which the commission is unable to solve may be referred to that agency or organization which the committee deems appropriate, or to the city council or the Michigan Civil Rights Commission. So the complaint in question originates with a truly outrageous email that an individual sent to an elected official some years ago. I don't know exactly when, somewhere between 4 and 10 years ago, whatever it is. And that was the potentially an act of discrimination. Whether it rises to that or not, I understand from reading the minutes that Mr. Cummins didn't feel that it did. But your charge is to investigate acts of discrimination. So then if the complaint is against city council, I guess you'd have to define who we discriminated against and what that act of discrimination was. To my mind, I looked at a person who I know, and I don't believe that the email that she sent defines her as a person. I think it was truly outrageous, over the top, absolutely inappropriate, should not have been sent. And I don't know what was in her mind that day, other than she was obviously rather unhappy and very expressive. But it also didn't think that it permanently disqualified her from serving on a city board. Whether or not you want to try to exact an apology from her or not, I guess that you could ask. Sounds like nobody went back to the original problem of the email. Instead, it was all focused on a council that wanted to move forward with, here's a person who was rather well qualified, at least in my opinion, and who did something kind of, very wrong some time ago. And like I said, I don't think that defines her as a person. So going back to what are we actually doing here? Are you actually investigating a complaint of discrimination on the part of council? Who do we discriminate against, and what was the effect of that discrimination? What was the act of discrimination? I guess I'm not really seeing that, but what I would suggest is that you tell council how you think we should have handled it, and that would be very appropriate for this commission. Not so much as trying to resolve a specific complaint, which I'm not sure fits well with what's in the ordinance for this committee to do, but rather to, as you said, Luann, kind of serve as our conscience and tell us that in the case such as this, perhaps postponing, tabling should be automatic if there's a question about somebody's past behavior. I can say my presentation to the, I'm sorry, just one more. My presentation to council when I made this nomination was that I was confident of this person. I didn't think that this email was that germane to the issues anymore, and that I thought we should kind of move on with this. And I never made any excuses for the content of that email. By the same token, this commission didn't address that. Instead, you just addressed that we didn't take it seriously. So I would welcome constructive criticism of how we did things, what we might do differently. As far as revisiting this at council, well, if we're not going to entertain the possibility of rescinding or reversing the appointment, I'm not sure what that means. But if you want to talk about the process of appointing people to boards and commissions, whether another step ought to be in there, then I don't have any problem with you making a recommendation like that.
Well, if I can just say that the very final sentence is what we hoped would guide exactly what you just said, which is we ask the city to review its procedures for appointing citizens to its boards and commissions to ensure that diversity, equity, and inclusion are important criteria for selecting the people who serve the citizens of Grand Haven. I think what we were hoping to do here was to kind of put a shot across your bow to say, you didn't have to do it this way this time. Try not to do it this way next time. And remember that we want diverse citizens representing our community.
Luann, if I may say something, if we could,
Yes.
in the letter, I think it would be important to say that the pillars of diversity, equity, inclusion, because we are saying in our statement that characteristics and all of that are the pillars. And so if we could add that on there, that would be my suggestion. Okay. And I have a question to Mayor Manetza is if this person who was appointed to the board would have done that during her time serving, would that be something that would be considered as removing that person from the board?
Carol, you mean if she were to send that email today?
Yes.
Yeah,
While
I think.
serving? Okay, so I guess the only question would be, my only question to you would be, if that would be enough to remove that person from the board, why is that not enough to prevent someone from then serving on the board?
Okay, so if a person sends a truly nasty email to someone else and is harassing another person, it's not necessarily misbehavior on the board. We might ask that person to account for that or resign or something, but I'm not sure that you could use that as a form of removal.
Okay.
I might have to go back and reread the ordinance and see exactly what that consists of.
Okay.
But it would certainly be inappropriate for somebody who has an official position with the city.
But that would be
Somebody who did this some time ago in whatever state of mind she was in. Like I said, I know this person and I'm surprised at the tone and the language, but I don't know that that's, like I say, in my mind, it didn't disqualify her from permanently ever serving on a board.
Okay. And I think that that's where we're coming from, that if she were to do something like that while serving on the board, and that's a cautious to you, or something would be done, then it would be our recommendation that however she acted then you would be cautious enough to appoint someone from the board if it would be considered something that is inappropriate. And that's where we're coming from, asking the city to really just look at what happened and change your procedures in the way that appointments are done in the future.
But wait, excuse me, but
So we're not asking.
In this case, how do you change a procedure? As I understand it, the mayor made a nomination. Denny Scott brought up something this person wrote 6 or 8 years ago. This other city council members didn't even know about it until the moment it was read.
So the
how can
procedure should be
take care of that?
That it's tabled and that they have a way.
I made
Right.
that point about a half an hour ago.
And so
Thank you.
that's what I'm saying, Denny. And I don't know what's going on with you today, but that's what we're saying. We're not trying to change anything. We're asking the city council to put something in their procedure that says something like that needs to be tabled. And so it needs to be in writing so that they all know that needs to happen.
It doesn't have to be in writing, Raina, because every council member can table anything. They can offer a motion to table anytime they want to.
But
it doesn't have to be in writing. Any city councilman, county commissioner can offer a motion to table any item that's on the agenda before it's voted on, period.
Okay, so Denny, what is it that you would like differently to have been done or to be done?
It's too late to undo what's been done. What needs to go forward is the simple fact that city council members, in doing their due diligence, particularly in this instance, in my view, from a fair number of years of experience, should have paused and said, you know what? This information we just received caused me some concern, some question. I make a motion to table this so we can take some time to look it over. Period. End of story.
Okay, and we all know that didn't happen. And so my question for you is, what is it that you think that we should not be making a recommendation to the council, and you think that we should go back to the person who complained and say, well, there's nothing that can be done, so our hands are tied?
No, I would say in conversation with our elected officials, we talk to them and have them give a better sense of understanding and appreciation of how the process works. Maybe even a couple of them, if they've already done, I think publicly, admit that they made a mistake by not offering a motion to table. And next time this may not happen.
Which is what we are trying to do by
But we don't have
this.
to, I don't know that we have to go to the extreme of putting it in writing and making some big deal out of this.
If it involves protecting LGBTQ people that live within the city limits, I adamantly disagree. It's about taking accountability for the future. That's important.
Nobody's saying we're not taking accountability for the future.
Then you should support this.
Alexa, pardon?
Then you should support this.
Barbara, did you have something?
Yeah, I just wanted to, and I don't have the complaint in front of me right now, but to the point Alexa was just making, I think it's important that the complaint wasn't just that there was an offensive email sent to somebody, like an attack to that person. It was that it contained derogatory language toward a marginalized group. And I just didn't want that to get lost in the process. That I think that was the discriminatory act, or potentially discriminatory.
Potential being the right word, yeah.
I've heard two concrete suggestions. One was in paragraph 2, Zach, if you don't mind, on the request, if you could put that back on the screen, please, if you're still here. In paragraph 2, in the second line, after the comma, the council should have tabled the appointment.
Revisit the appointment.
We already said revisit up above. If you'll just give me time, my thought. The council should have tabled the appointment and asked the mayor to continue to seek other candidates. And then the other thing I heard was, we asked the city to review its procedures for appointing citizens to its boards and commissions to ensure that the pillars of diversity, equity, and inclusion are important criteria for selecting the people who serve the citizens of Grand Haven. Did I get that down right?
My only question was I'm totally there with that they should have tabled the appointment. I wonder if it should say, for further consideration, as opposed to and possibly continuing to seek other candidates. I mean, after further evaluation and interviews and whatnot, they might have still decided she was a good fit. But there certainly wouldn't be a reason not to continue seeking either. The way it reads, it sounds to me like table her and get somebody else on, as opposed to other investigation.
So that would be the council should have tabled the appointment for further consideration and review.
Yeah, I would be more comfortable with that.
And I just want to correct something that you said earlier, Denny. There was more than one person aware of this letter prior to the meeting. In our investigation, we learned that Mr. Dora knew about it as well as Mr. Scott. So there were 3 council members who knew about it prior to the meeting. And so it was a surprise, but even though it was surprised, the council all voted with only one opposing, passed this person's appointment. And this is our work to let the council know that in supporting a citizen who brought a complaint to us, we have asked them to reconsider their actions going forward. And now I'd like to know if Mr. O'Neill.
Look like I understand where Denny's coming from to a degree. especially when he said maybe she should write something to see where she is now versus where she's been, over the years. It's like the city council needs maybe to really look at their behavior when they pick someone or understanding what is diversity inclusion in something like this, because it seems to me if they went ahead and did it without, tabling the issue, they just pass it on and just forgot about what was in the past like it's no big deal, because that's the way we do business. I mean, it could be, the other people that I've seen on this as I studied it, like people said, how could somebody let let this go through without any discussion? So, there's something in here that, what the Arena says, what Barbara's talking about, what we all are talking about. I think we really have to take a look at this much deeper than what, than what we have been.
What I am hoping from this is that the city will take time in appointing people and seek a more diverse representation on its commissions than just who happens to fill out an application at a time there's an opening. So I'm just hoping that this will start, just like we're reviewing our policies and procedures, maybe make the appointing of commissioners a little bit more important to our council members in especially in the pillars of diversity, equity, and inclusion. And now I would like to ask our guest, Mr. O'Neill, if he would like to contribute to this conversation before we vote on this.
I guess I'd like to say I think that there was a clear discrimination on a marginalized group, and I think the entire issue seemed like it was rushed at the city council meeting, and I'm not sure that it seemed like one other city council member knew about the issue, and then the rest didn't, and it seemed like it was pushed through. And I'm rather disappointed that I understand in the COVID times we're doing remote or doing swearing in quickly as soon as it's possible, but it seemed like this was railroaded through, and I'm disappointed in how this all went down. I was listening to city council for other reasons, and it was just this hit home that this is not how I don't want people like that representing me. And if you say 6, 8, or 8 years ago, I don't think that saying something happened 6 years ago means that it loses its validity. I think people have to be held accountable for their actions, and that's life. That's what life is about, being held accountable. Do your best, and I want people, and I respect everyone on the city council and everyone on this commission, and I truly respect Mrs. Masco about the questions you asked about whether it's if that person had done that now, would that be acceptable? That's a great question, and that's something that maybe that could be thought of in the future. Is that something? And then, so I've got lots of questions and challenges about this, but I just honestly want the best for Grand Haven, and that person representing me is not, I don't want someone like that representing me. So, and I respect this process, and thank you for all your time on this. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. O'Neill. Does anybody else have anything to add? Jenny, would you unmute, please?
I completely respect the mayor's discernment on this. Your clarification, Luann, about some board members knowing about this document and what was said, whatever period of time beforehand, still made their decision to support this. I respect their decision. I hope they learned something by it. But I respect what the mayor and council members did.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I would say that this is a teaching moment for us as a Human Relations Commission. And this is where we're trying to find out, right? Like, this has never been done. And so I think that's one of the reasons why it's so important for us to look in the policies and procedure to see how we can change our policies and know exactly what we're doing, and not just, hopefully have this conversation. We're trying to find out what we really need to do. And again, there was a reason why we asked the city to adopt a diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it shouldn't just be something that is just adopted and forgotten about and really not practiced. And I will just take this as a teaching moment, but not just a teaching moment. When we know better, we do better. And so I will disagree with Denny, and I think that this needs to be put in writing. I think that if this could be something that if it's not put in writing, as council members change, this will be forgotten, and this might happen again, and maybe even in a bigger scope. So if we do say that we value that we have some pillars of diversity, equity, inclusion, then they should come into question every time we have somebody wanting to serve the city, because they do represent the city. They represent everyone. And if something like that would prevent someone from, if they were serving and they would say something like that or do something like that, then that same standard should be held when someone is being appointed.
Okay.
Madigan, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I think I agree with Raina in that, okay, we may not be able to do as much now as we would like to, but I don't think it hurts anything to put it in writing. And if we decide not to put it in writing, I feel like there's a higher chance that it could be forgotten, like Raina said. I don't see a negative to putting it in writing. So I kind of think that's where we should go. Because there is a possibility of a negative to not putting it in writing, and I don't see a negative to do it, if that makes sense.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify that the point of all of this is then to submit it to council for a future meeting agenda. And Rhonda, you might be able to help smooth out what the next steps would be. But if it's necessary, I would read it at the next, at the council meeting that it was on the agenda, and just present it to council as our request.
Do you need a motion?
Well, if we're done discussing it, I would like to move that we submit this to council for discussion for an agenda at a future council meeting with the revisions that were given. There was a third revision given since I read the first two, and the third revision from Lee Van Horsen was back to the second line of the second paragraph. The council should have tabled the appointment for further consideration and review, period. So do I need to read it in its entirety?
Yes,
and
please.
Ask for a motion?
Yes, please.
Okay. Request for review of city council action. In light of alleged discrimination complaint 2020-01 submitted by a citizen of the city of Grand Haven, and upon investigation of said complaint, the Human Relations Commission asks the Grand Haven City Council to revisit its November 2, 2020 appointment to the Duncan Park Board. We believe that all actions by City Council should be consistent with the tenets espoused by the City of Grand Haven Diversity and Inclusion Statement adopted by Council in 2019 and incorporated herein by reference. That's a little legalese that I'm just throwing in there. We further believe that when information about the appointee's discriminatory statements was presented at said council meeting, the council should have tabled the appointment for further consideration and review. We ask the city to review its procedures for appointing citizens to its boards and commissions to ensure that the pillars of diversity, equity, and inclusion are important criteria for selecting the people who serve the citizens of Grand Haven. That is the statement that we have written to submit to the city council for consideration on a future agenda. Do I have a motion to submit this statement as written?
Motion. I'll motion it.
Okay.
Morrison will support it.
Moved by
Support.
Masco, supported by Swartout. Any further discussion? Okay, I'm going to ask for a vote on this motion. And I will take voice votes as I call your name. Swartout,
Yes.
yes. Lee Van Horsen,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
Reyna Amasco,
Yes.
Lyons,
Yes.
Lautzenheiser,
Yes.
Farmer,
Yes.
Tran. Angela Tran, are you there?
Oh, sorry, I said yes.
Yes, okay. You kind of have, okay, and Worksmith is a yes. So I don't see anybody else on there that is voting tonight. Do I have any opposed? I don't see having any opposed. So that the motion has carried. Thank you all very much for your very thoughtful contribution to that discussion.
That's, Luann, the mayor has his hand raised.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I just wanted to circle back on one point, and not to do with the motion in particular, but a point that Alexa brought up a bit ago, and that is that there was a perceived threat to a protected group, and specifically LGBTQ people. And I know Mrs. Nagsam, and I know that she would not have intended this to be a threat to LGBTQ people or any other group. Why she used the slur is inexplicable to me, but I know that that is not the kind of person that she is, and I'm confident of that. And so I didn't perceive a threat there in spite of the language used. So if there's a concern that I didn't care about LGBTQ people, that's not the case, and I'm quite confident that Ms. Naxum is not that person. So I just wanted to circle back and speak on behalf of her that I didn't see that as any kind of a threatening statement. I think in the absence of that slur, you would have had the person ranting about somebody else, please get sick and die, or some such nonsense as that. So I just wanted to make it clear that that was something that I did think about. And I think that Mrs. Naxum deserves the benefit of the doubt on that one.
Thank you, Mayor Manetza. Last item under old business, anti-racism task force, Lee Van Horsen.
So the Anti-Racism Task Force continues to meet regularly. We held our last town hall on November 23rd on ethnic intimidation. Brian Wheeler and DJ Hilson were our panelists. It was a really profound town hall, and I would welcome anybody that visited if they have any reflections they'd like to share. But Brian, who's on this meeting right now, just was yeah, it was very moving to hear him, and then to have DJ talk about kind of the line between ethnic intimidation when things rise to the level of criminal. Really, really good. Coming up in December, please mark your calendars, register for the next town hall. It's December 28th. These are always the fourth Monday of every month, so you can plan on them. Racism in the educational system, it's part 1, and our panelists will be Calvin Terrell. You might recognize that name because he spoke at Grand Haven High School about a year and a half ago. He's the founder and director of the Social Centric Institute. And Rebecca Bush, who is a consultant to the OAISD on curriculum. So we're really, really fortunate to have both of these panelists available. We'll have a regular town hall, and then I believe they're both going to make themselves available for kind of a second conversation after the town hall for people who want to continue that. There is suggested reading, which is A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. The other thing that the task force is working on, one of the first action items, well, not the first anymore, the latest action item is working with members of the mental illness task force to put together a workshop on retaining relationships in the midst of conflict. And so that will take place over 2 Thursday afternoons, January 28th and February 4th. It'll consist of 3 speakers. So this will be a workshop 1 to 5 each of those days. And Ann McKnight will be talking about the neuroscience of relationships. Holly Jasinski will be talking about healthy relationships and the difference between healthy conflict and abuse. And Sarah Lewakowski will be talking about finding common ground with people we need to be in relationship with. We'll have exercises and activities and practice for people over the course of that week. And then we'll get back together and participants will have a chance to talk about what worked for them, what obstacles they faced, and have the panelists, the speakers, respond to that and engage in more conversation. So it will be a workshop as opposed to our town hall on retaining relationships. And we have begun the conversation about structuring a similar conversation or workshop rather, specifically for teenagers and helping teenagers deal with conflict with parents, with siblings, with peers. So don't have dates or anything about that other than it was recommended by one of my staff people and everybody agreed that it's certainly something our young people can use, especially now that they're at home with their parents all the time. And so really looking forward to this. Great panelists, and we'll have hopefully a flyer ready within the next couple of days so we can start promoting that.
Go ahead.
So I just wanted to say that I did send the link to register for the town hall to Mrs. Wilson, and I plan on sending that to a couple of teachers as well as to a couple of clubs that I'm in, just so people are aware, because Calvin Terrell came to speak at the high school when I was a freshman, and I was also invited to be part of a secondary follow-up activity that lasted half of a day with him as well, and I thought that was really eye-opening, so I'll definitely be able to promote that.
Fantastic.
Thank you, Angela. And I would like to also say that I was very disappointed in how few of us attended the last town hall. And if anything you would have gotten out of it, it was hearing your colleague, Mr. Wheeler, tell something about his background that would have helped you understand that people in this community have experienced a lot more than what you might expect. And we can learn a lot from each other at these, as well as from the panelists. You do not, I know we are all zoomed out. We're all exhausted. You don't even have to attend. All you have to do is register and listen to the video. This is the work we've signed up to do. This will educate us on the work. Please be there. It's December 28th. It's vacation week for most of us. I'd like to see you all there, and I'd like you to bring 10 friends. And that's all I have to say. And my husband just called me a slave driver. And we'll put that on my tombstone.
Here.
He just said he would be sure of it. All right, under new business, communication correspondence. Shia Lyons, you want to tell us all the exciting things that are going on with the world of social media and media?
Oh, yes, so much excitement. Well, we did have, I just had it pulled up, and of course it has since refreshed because that's what it does. One thing I will say is that anything that anybody sees, I've put up the town hall, I've scheduled it a few times to go up between now and the 28th. But if anyone sees things that are pertinent to this, please feel free to email them and just say to me, put this on the Human Relations Commission page. And I'm more than happy to do it. I've had a lot of difficulty connecting the Instagram and the Facebook, so I've honestly kind of given up on that. So we're just focusing on Facebook at this point. And so if there are things that you see, please feel free to send them to me. I'm happy to post them. And if it's something that we can schedule out multiple times, I'm happy to do that. Same with if we decide to do a video with the award, coming up with the Visionary Award people, please feel free to forward me anything. I'm happy to help push it. My email is very, as all of yours is very full, and I have a lot of things coming in. So it helps if it's just a quick little please post this. That really helps me just to remember, okay, do it. And then I'll start in my email and I'll make sure to post it. So please feel free to send me that stuff. There is engagement on the Human Relations Commission's page. The most engaging post I do remember when I glanced at it, I'm not remembering the number. I want to say that we've had about 1,300 engagements over the course of the month. So it's definitely something. But the largest engagement was the spotlight on Madigan. So the
Oh,
spotlight,
kidding.
yeah, oh, easily was the most engaging.
She's such a social media influencer. Holy
She is. So if anyone who is on here, and I know a lot of you haven't, I've done them on a handful of you, but if anyone would care to, I sent out the email, I can resend it, but I just had some questions about why you serve, what resources you see in the community, just sharing a little bit of information about you and your upbringing and why you're doing this, and then including a picture. Then I will make sure to get that edited and posted so that we can share with the community more about each individual and why you do this and hope to contribute to the community. And as a resource, something I thought of too is we could include your email if you're comfortable on that posting as well, so that people know that you're someone that they can reach out to if needed.
Thank you so much, Cheryl. Thanks for all your work. Finance report, Rhonda, I remember you saying that you had sent me one. I don't have it.
Well, it's the same as last month, and I cannot pull it up because I have this computer thing where I can't be on my VPN and connected to all my HRC information and have video and microphone. So Zach is laughing. Yes, Zach. So I can send it if you just want. I'll just email it tomorrow.
Okay, and we don't owe anybody money, right? And we
don't owe anybody money. The last money we spent was the sponsorship for the Fiesta, and before that for the Visionary Award. So I think our balance of money is right around $900.
Okay,
that's how much money the commission has. But I'll email it tomorrow. I apologize. I thought Luann had it, and so that's my fault. So.
That's awfully gracious of you. As long as we have money and we don't owe people money, we're good. And finally, the long-awaited presentation from Zach Van Ostall, City of Grand Haven updates. What's new at 5?
Yeah, first of all, Rhonda, I know the struggle, the VPN struggle, so I'm in with you there. But I'm Zach Van Ostall. I'm the HR manager for the City of Grand Haven, and I've been saving up a couple updates for you guys. Hopefully I can continue to join in at some of your meetings and share updates of what's going on with the city. I believe I shared last time I presented to you guys, the city, all in city employees are going through a training right now. Cultural intelligence, we contracted with Ottawa County and Sarah Allen there. So she is training all of our employees on cultural intelligence. It's a 2-day, 2-session course, 2 hours each, so total of 4 hours. It's been really great. I've had great feedback from staff on it. It's getting them thinking about their jobs and what they can do in their job to really not just promote cultural intelligence, but also equity within the community. So there's been a lot of great conversations, and it's brought down barriers, brought people, made them feel like they can talk about it a little bit more, which has been awesome to see. So I would say probably 2/3 to 3/4 of our staff has been fully trained on that. There's still a couple of sessions coming up at the beginning of the year, so all staff will be trained on that. As new hires come in, they'll also take the course. So that's been really great to see. I do have 4 other items, so hang in with me there. But I wanted to give you a little update on, will the City Council be doing the training as well? Yes, Raina. City Council has, I believe they've all completed the training already. All 5 of them have been through it already. So I've been working with Robin Afric. We've all been kind of watching what the DEI department does at Ottawa County, and they are launching some really great stuff. As you know, the Ottawa County's been a part of GARE, which is the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. They have several different tools that they can help roll out to not only Ottawa County, but also local municipalities. So Robin and the DEI office are rolling out communities of learning here in Ottawa County, and that will be local governments getting together, grouped together, along with other entities and really tackling different toolkits so we can see what it looks like for local government to integrate racial equity into our routine decision making. So what does that look like at city government administration level? So that will be exciting. They are launching, when I talked to her earlier today, they were going through applications. So hopefully I'll have an update on that. Next are personnel policies were updated by City Council. They approved the changes a couple of months ago. And within those policies, there are 3 that I really wanted to point out and stick out. So one of them had to do with the pension. So it's kind of complicated, but, and I'll get to why this applies to HRC here in a second, but in the past, when you were on short-term disability, it did not count towards your years of service. So that means while you're on short-term disability, it's not counting up, it doesn't help your pension get any more robust. Well, one of the reasons that we wanted to change it so then the short-term disability was included in the years of service is that women tend to take more short-term disability due to childbearing. So overall, we are closing the gap between men and women's wages here at the city. That was a great step that council took towards doing that. That was super awesome to see. So now that short-term disability no longer disproportionately affects women. So that was awesome. Something else that City Council passed was the Mlk Day of Service. So that's the 3rd Monday of every January. The City Hall will be closed. Non-union staff have the day off in order to serve the community and also reflect on the teachings of Dr. Martin Luther King. So that's something that Grand Valley's been doing along with other government entities, federal government also as well. So we're joining in on that, and I'm super excited to see what happens in January with our employees serving the community, giving back. I plan to, as HR, will be sending out different opportunities to the employees, sending out the teachings by MLK, but that was an awesome step. And then finally, in the policy update that the City Council did, they revised the EEO statement, anti-discrimination, just to incorporate more protected groups that were already stated by the state laws and federal laws. So yeah, thank you to council members that are on this meeting here that passed all of these great changes. And I'm looking forward to continuing to provide the HRC with updates in the future.
Thank you, Zach. That was all very interesting. And it reminded me of something I read this week. I don't understand why maternity is called short-term disability. I don't think that putting a new taxpayer into the world is a disability and shouldn't be called that. But they don't let a puppy leave its mother for 8 weeks. But they make a mother come back to work after 6 in many cases. And when I was traveling in Europe a couple of years ago, people asked us what our maternity leave policy was, and they were horrified to find out that we had none. So I'm glad we're making great strides, but I hope we make even better strides when it comes to recognizing the role of creating human beings and why it shouldn't cut into our pension and earning capability. So there, does anybody want to sing I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar or anything now?
Amen to that.
Thank you, Raina. Thanks. All right, agenda. Next agenda item, agency updates, other new business. Anybody? Madigan?
I just have a quick one for the Youth Advisory Council. We are currently investigating ways that we can share philanthropy and talk about what philanthropy is to elementary students as of now. So we're looking into that, working on that, and we're looking for movie recommendations and like discussion guide questions for like the older groups. So that's what we're working on right now.
Can I just say that United Way Worldwide has lots of resources and I'd be happy to help you with that. And if you want speakers from United Way to talk to the kids, we could. And we could even put a little community investment panel together of younger kids like we have done of high school age to do that. And we have lots of other nonprofit people here who could talk about philanthropy, because yes, I think that you should start giving young.
Madison, I also, we just, and I'm part of it, it's called Women of Color Give. And it's through the Holland Zealand Foundation. You might want to contact them because they're, you know, when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, there was a reason that was started. And how the philanthropy world works around giving dollars, especially to women's of color.
Perfect. Thank you. I will let Lauren know all of those resources. I'm sure she'll be really excited about that.
Anybody else have any agency updates? No. Rhonda?
Sure, just briefly.
Go ahead.
We recently have many more foreclosure clients, as I've talked about over the past few months, that we knew was coming. These forbearances are not, it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy to come out of them the way banks want us to believe. But for whatever reason, we've had a few more foreclosure clients just, you know, not to deal with COVID or forbearances. And what I learned this week was very disturbing is we have clients, and these are Muskegon County clients, and they actually all happened to be City of Muskegon Heights residents, which is, you know, coincidental. But we're learning that about these mortgages that are 10 to 13% interest rate for individuals. And when we talk about, you know, issues, whether the governor's declaration of a public health crisis and those kind of things, when you look at that, you know, interest rates right now on a conventional loan, an interest rate can be as low as 2.75. Mishja's interest rate is 3.85. And we have a client come to us, I think it was 3 this week, all persons of color, and their interest rates are somewhere between 10 and 13%. It is just, it's mind-boggling. So at our staff meeting this morning, we had a long conversation about what can we do as an agency? How do we help? But we have a problem, you know, these people are also in a foreclosure situation. So we made a decision on a process that we can follow. You know, how are we going to help them through the foreclosure situation? How are we going to follow along with them to hopefully improve their credit enough that then we can introduce them to a bank where they can hopefully refinance into a normal interest rate, because 10 to 13% is so unheard of. It just, I was speechless. So then the good news part of this is our housing counselor, we had another client today who's getting a mortgage through a lender that we had not worked with in the past. And she had to contact him for the documents that we needed from the lender. It just so happens that this particular company is from Kent County, but they're moving an office into Muskegon County. And they want to find a way to connect with Muskegon County. They want to find a way to use their CRA dollars, the Community Reinvestment Act. So my very brilliant housing counselor said to him, if you want to spend CRA dollars in Muskegon County, you should look at investing in those dollars into helping people with the, you know, she said, I can't think of the technical mortgage term, it's escaping me, but she said you should look at using those CLT dollars to help rescue people in these outrageous mortgages into a more reasonable interest rate. And he said, when do you want to meet?
Great, that is great. And how do we get them, instead of the whole balance having to be refinanced, a rebate on some of that incredible interest? That's redlining.
Well, it is. And, you know, she said at least one of the clients in particular, she said, you know, she there was a literacy issue. Shile is asking about a balloon mortgage. I don't know, Shile. We don't know enough yet at this point. We didn't have enough details yet. Hopefully not. But I don't know. We don't have enough information. It was shocking. I'm naive, I guess. Didn't think that, I don't know how I didn't think it was out there, but it's out there. But yet at the same time, Lynn took the opportunity to, she had a lender on the phone. He said, we're moving our company local. And she immediately said, let's see if we can make something happen. So maybe we'll be able to help figure something out. I don't know. But anyway.
Rhonda,
Are they local lenders?
They're in Grand Rapids right now, and you're going to ask me their name and now.
No, I mean the lenders of the 10 to 13% mortgages, are they local lenders?
No, they're the ones who are in Grand Rapids right now and going to move this way. And it was the same. No, I'm saying that wrong. I'm sorry. No, it was not a local lender, the mortgage company. They had the same mortgage company. I'm confusing our home buyer ed client who's moving from Grand Rapids to Muskegon. But the foreclosure clients, 2 of them actually was the same company. So it's probably like a Wells Fargo who preys on, people in desperate situations.
Rhonda, does Muskegon County have the same eviction process in the courts? I know Ottawa County does, and they're working with Good Sam's with that.
Yeah.
Are they doing the same thing?
That eviction diversion prevention program that's part of the CARES Act, that's statewide.
Oh, good. Okay.
So every county has a fiduciary like Good Sam who is running that program.
Okay.
Yep. So anyway, I guess I'm just kind of preaching to the choir. I know you guys all know that this stuff happens. I was a little shocked, but I was also really impressed that hopefully we can continue to work with them and hopefully something will come of it.
Thank you for your good work. And I do think when you mentioned the literacy problem, that's certainly something that somebody can walk alongside of someone who's getting a loan, that perhaps everybody needs an advocate against the predatory lenders.
Buyer education.
Rhonda, can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
Have you guys looked at any of the Black churches in the Muskegon Heights or Muskegon area and getting, what could you do, or, people could refinance, you kind of repackage these loans at a lower interest rate or anything like that? Or in other words, I'm just beginning to think that there should be some kind of beginning to have an outreach to the people there, particularly in the churches, that can, help out and assist
Spread
you
the
all
word.
and start the work. Yes.
We have not, Wes, because like I said, this is brand new to me. It literally just was today, but that's a really good idea. And I will gonna write that one down. But yeah, if the bank moves here and something more happens with it, that would be a really good way to get the word out and communicate about, where to get help. So thanks for that.
Yeah, there's also in our racial task force, there's a gentleman who has a radio station, or community radio station. And there's also...
Are you talking about Andy O'Reilly?
No, Tim, forgot Tim's last name.
Okay.
Stewart. Tim Stewart.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the situation, is the podcast.
Oh, okay.
I have the email in case I have the email for you to reach if you need it.
Okay, thanks.
The other thing, there's also a R&B station there in the area that you can also, that goes out on, I think it's 101 or 103 FM.
Okay.
That can do a community message out like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yep, that's very helpful. Thank you.
And also, I'm sure you already know, Rhonda, but just because I do a lot of work in Muskegon County, Mlk in Muskegon County, they're the ones that's the Muskegon Oceana Community Action Partnership or something. That's the hub that does, they have Community Encompass that helps with the homelessness and that, but Mlk, offers the home buyer education stuff that is offered through your office for Muskegon and Oceana County as well. So they might have some.
And actually, they are no longer, they still do it, I think, but they can't do it for MISTA or HUD. And they can't do it for the city of Muskegon. Something happened 2 years ago, and they lost their funds from MISTA and their certification. So Onita Bailey from the city of Muskegon sends all their people to us now. And
okay.
That's why we added Muskegon County to our education and counseling, because we knew that MoCap lost it. And if you were in Muskegon County, there was nowhere to go other than way up north or to Grand Rapids. So we took on Muskegon County when they lost that. They can still do it, but they can't do it, for some of the official certificates.
Well, I feel it's important that we serve the Muskegon County residents anyway, because so many of the people that live in Muskegon work in Grand Haven.
I agree with you. Mm-hmm.
They have significant ties to our community. So
I agree with you. And I know you always said that, and I completely agree with you.
And I agree too. So, yes, it's funny the lines we draw on the map. We really are and should be one community.
Yeah.
All right, is it time for our last call to the audience? Do we have any comments, Zach?
We'll have to give it a minute or two here, but there are no comments right now. So we just hold on for another 30 or 45 seconds and then I'll reconfirm.
Okay, and Rhonda, Brian put in the chat 103.
I see 103.7. Yes, thank you.
Okay. You need a Shy Alliance doing your promotion.
Yes. Shile and I are going to be connecting in the next few days that I'm working, because I had a big grant due and a whole bunch of HUD reports and whatnot, but the next thing on my calendar is marketing. So
great.
And I want to say to Shile that I like that visitor that she brought to the meeting.
Oh, I know.
She goes everywhere that I go. Ray, you say hi?
Not so much. Don't bug me.
I know. Yeah. She's snoring. My son wrote a paper about her, and in it he said, "I have a dog that snores like Darth Vader." That's true.
That's funny.
I had a girl golden for 16 years. I miss her terribly.
They're sweet.
Luann, there is no public comment.
All right. Oh, I'm sorry, Alexa, one last thing from Alexa before we say goodnight.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'd like to call a couple things into the space. Up to you.
Go right ahead.
I want to say that I think firstly, there is a difference between the intent of what someone says and does and the impact of what one says and does. For example, if I adamantly disagreed with my fellow commissioners, I might not think I'm coming off as disrespectful, but to my fellow commissioners, I might be. Second, no one statement or action can define a person in their entirety. But I believe that as appointed or elected public officials, that we have a responsibility to ensure that we do the best we can to represent all citizens within our purview. And that includes the accountability for the impact of whatever our intent might be. Thanks.
You must have a master's degree.
I might.
All right. Okay. I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday season and all of us a much better 2021. Hope to see you all in person before 2021 gets very old. And may I have a motion to adjourn this meeting at 7:23 p.m.
Motion.
Was
Raina.
that moved by Masco, and who can support it?
Lions.
Supported by Lions. Good night, everybody.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays,
Good night.
everyone.